Every business has to be dependent on the owner at the start, but if it stays that way for too long, it will eventually fall apart. It might feel like you're just being responsible, but you're actually becoming the bottleneck in your business. I learned this the hard way and ended up closing a good growing business because I kept it too reliant on me for too long and lost all motivation. Since then, I've been committed to solving the owner dependency problem by helping business owners step back whilst improving the performance of their teams and their businesses. Stepping back can feel like one of the hardest steps in business for business owners, but it should be enjoyable, rewarding, and should unlock the next level of growth in your business. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the red flags that show you're falling into the owner dependency trap, my personal experience of getting stuck and what I learned from that, and the practical steps that you can take to navigate away from owner dependency without your business or team falling apart. Let's dive in. First of all, what are the red flags that show you're falling into the owner dependency trap? Now, there's something really important we need to understand about this, and that is that all businesses start depending on the owner. And if your business is dependent on you, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. There's a lot of people on the internet, business mentors and gurus that say, if business is reliant on you, you haven't got a business, you've got a job. I think that's complete BS. Of course you've got a business, right? But the key thing to understand is that at some point when it's right for you, you do need to navigate your business away from being dependent on you to working without you. Now, how do you know then if your business is meant to be reliant on you at the start that you're falling into the owner dependency trap? It's actually very straightforward, and it all comes down to what motivates the business owner. So generally speaking, us business owners are motivated by the 4S: fun, freedom, fulfillment, and finances. And what that means is that as we go through our journeys as business owners, how we are motivated by our business changes slightly. Now, what I mean by that is when you start your business, so when you're in the startup phase, which is typically 6 to 18 months, you find freedom in your business, not because you don't have to work a lot. You have to work crazy hours, right? Because you're no longer an employee. So you're fulfilling your desire for freedom by creating your own job, okay? Not by not having to work. So that's great. And that's why in the early stages of business, business owners are super motivated to work however many hours are required to make their businesses successful, right? And you'll often work crazy hours without getting paid much. Great. Okay. And you make your business dependent on you. And in fact, the only way that you get your business off the ground and to a level of success is through trial and error and you being involved in absolutely everything. So it's nonsense to say that your business shouldn't be dependent on you. It absolutely should until, and this is what the important point to understand is, at some point in your business owner journey, you're going to move from the startup phase to what we call the success phase, right? And the success phase is you've got clients that are buying from you, you're getting a bit of a name for yourself, and you're building a bit of a team around you. Call that the success phase, right? And everything's dependent on you still, but you're enjoying it. The team look up to you for direction. The clients look up to you for support and service, whatever it might be. You've got your fingers in every aspect of the business. You are the system. You are the system that keeps the business running. It's all in your head, the values, the vision, process, the way that we do things. It's all in your head. So business is relying on you. And at the start, like I said, you enjoy that. And you might enjoy that for 10 years. You might enjoy it for 3 years. For as long as you enjoy it, you don't need to change it. So don't fall into this trap of telling yourself, oh, I need to systemize my business right now. If you don't want to, then don't do it. If you try to systemize your business too early, probably won't work very well because you're still figuring stuff out. Now, here's the important piece, right? At some point, everything being reliant on you is going to stop being cool for you. And there's a reason for this. And that's because the way that you start to get freedom, the way that you crave freedom starts to change and you start to crave freedom from your business. That doesn't mean your business is broken. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you as a business owner. It just means that your motivations are starting to change. And this typically happens anywhere between 3 and 10 years in your business journey. For most people, it's between 3 and 5 years. Some people, it's much longer. Now, what happens at this stage is a couple of things. Number one is you tend to start to crave freedom from your business and you will start to think about it in regards to a job. And you'll be like, if I had a job, I would get 4 weeks paid every year. And some of my clients are getting paid holiday and some of my staff are getting paid holiday, but I don't. So you're going to start to have these natural thought processes and that's okay. But the other thing that happens is because the business starts dependent on you, you're probably involved in a lot of jobs that you don't like doing, particularly a lot of reactive work, like operational work, dealing with issues, dealing with staff, dealing with issues with customers, right? So you get pulled into a lot of stuff you don't enjoy. So when these two things collide, you're doing a lot of jobs that you don't enjoy and you start to crave a bit of freedom, that's when you will start to feel like you're stuck in the owner trap. Okay, you'll start to feel a bit resentful towards your business. You start to feel a bit tired. You start to feel a bit demotivated. Now, again, I want to reiterate, this does not mean that there's anything wrong with you. or there's anything wrong with your business. It just means that you've reached this natural plateau where you're fed up with the business being reliant on you. And that's okay. Now, when we reach this stage and we stop being motivated and we stop looking forward to going to work on Monday and we feel like we're doing a lot of jobs that don't motivate us, that's a red flag that we're falling into the owner dependency trap. Now, why do I call it a trap? Okay, so this is my key point, right? You have to go through this stage of not being satisfied with your business. And in fact, if you don't go through that stage, you're not in the owner dependency trap, right? You like your business being dependent on you. No reason to try and fix it. But you do get to this point where you're like, my business is starting to feel like a bit of a prison, right? Now, you have two ways in which you respond to this, and how you respond is going to dictate the rest of your business success or lack of success and your enjoyment as a business owner and your mental health, right? Now, option one is the option that I took in my first business and that most business owners follow, right? And that is where, first of all, you tell yourself that the reason that the fact that your business is dependent on you means that you're a bit of a failure and you're not a very good business owner, right? So you start telling yourself this story and listening to messages online about if your business is dependent on you, you're not really a business owner, all of that stuff. And then the second story that you tell yourself is that very difficult for your business to work without you, maybe even impossible. And you combine those two things together, and now you have a solid, convincing story that you need to just stay where you are, that you're not very good at what you do, that you're a failure, and that it's impossible for you to try and step away because it just won't work. So you get this kind of like double whammy of telling yourself you're not very good and convincing yourself you've got to stay in your business. What that leads to is you staying stuck in your business and being demotivated. And that's not good, because it's going to mean that your business plateaus because it can only reach a certain stage. If you lose your motivation, the team and the culture of the business starts to decline. And also, you're just stuck doing 101 things. So you've got to spend your time on the stuff that you're good at, which is probably driving growth, building key partnerships, strategizing the business, leadership. And you can't do that because you're stuck in so many daily things that you're just drained and demotivated. It'll just lead to the business stagnating and eventually closing. There's a really important thing to understand as well, and that is that business owners tend to be motivated by being inspiring and motivational and driven, right? There's another thing that happens as a business owner where if you start to feel stuck in your business and a bit demotivated, you can actually then go into this downward spiral of disliking yourself because you're demotivated, and then nothing gets better, right? Because you're like, I'm not as motivated as I used to be. I'm not as driven as I used to be. So I don't feel very good about that. And then you go on this downward spiral and tell yourself this story about how you've lost it or whatever it might be. I know, because I've been through that experience. So the key thing is to recognize these warning signs, which are very simple. You stop feeling motivated for your business. You start to feel a bit tired, a bit drained. You probably feel like you're not able to do a good job because you're trying to do 20 different things. And the business just starts to feel more like a stress than an enjoyment. Those are the early warning red flags that you are slowly starting to fall into the owner dependency trap. And what we need to make sure we don't do is see that as a failure on our behalf, see it as something going wrong, and we just see it as a natural stage of business in which we can focus on moving past. And what I'd like to show you now is my personal experience again stuck in this state. So I had my first business for 5 years, built from the ground up, 6-figure business with 5 employees. Not going to change the world, but it was a great success story, really, until it wasn't. And for the first 2.5 years of that business, I loved it. I was in the startup and then success phase. I loved it. It was growing. I was figuring stuff out. I had a team that looked up to me. Clients looked up to me. We were changing people's lives, getting them into the best shape of their lives. It was great. And then around 2.5 years, I started to feel more trapped and drained by my business. And instead of seeing that as just a part of the journey, I made it about me. Okay, so I started to buy into all this stuff that if your business is dependent on you, you have just got a job, you haven't got a business. And I bought into that. I was like, oh, okay, I'm not a very good business owner. I've built this thing that's reliant on me. And I started to like beat myself up about that. And then I coupled that with this story that, oh, my business can't work without me. And part of that was because I was being a perfectionist. Like I wanted everything to be perfect. So whenever I tried to go into letting a thing go or systemizing or processing a thing, because I wanted it to be so perfect, the process of letting it go or systemizing it just felt impossible. And then I'd spend some time trying to do it, get frustrated, and then just convince myself that it's not possible, and then stay stuck in this place of, no, I have to stay involved. And all that led to over the next 2.5 to 3 years was me just getting slightly less motivated every week and getting less love for my business every week and getting slightly more demotivated every week, to a point where I didn't even recognize myself 4 to 5 years in. And eventually what happened was COVID came along, which kind of threw a spanner in the works, but I closed that business that had a good team, a financial model that was working, and clients that were happy. I closed that business because I convinced myself for so long that it couldn't work without me that I just lost all motivation for it. And when I'd done that for 2.5, 3 years, I just didn't want it anymore. And I look back now and I'm like, that business could have been scaled. It really wasn't that complicated. I had such a winner on my hands, but I just wasn't in the mindset to do what I needed to do to make that business work without me. And I think this is a key thing that we need to understand as business owners, is that your business will be reliant on you for quite a long time. That's okay. When you stop feeling motivated for it, you need to navigate it towards not being reliant on you. And that's going to take a year or two, but you've got to be enjoying it. You've got to be focused and you've got to be in the zone to be able to make that transition happen. So if you're just slowly burning yourself out in your business, you're never going to be able to get it to what you need it to be to work for you and for your customers and for your team long term. I went through that experience. I lost a great business. I closed it down. I managed to recoup my money through selling assets and all that stuff. But actually, I had a really good winner on my hands and it didn't reach its potential because I didn't look after myself and I didn't properly navigate through this initial bit of feeling stuck in your business. What I want to take you through now is some practical steps that you can take to avoid getting stuck in that trap that I was in and get your business to what it deserves to be, which is a non-owner dependent team and system driven business that can scale or sell without you. When I came out of that experience, I got stuck in between a rock and a hard place. Do I get a job or do I own a business again? And I knew if I got a job, I'd just be miserable because I hate working for people and I like the creativity and freedom of being a business owner. But I was also worried about starting a business again because I'm like, oh, I'm going to get stuck and stressed and sacrifice my life again for a business. And I came to the conclusion that my only solution here is to figure out how to own a business without getting stuck, without being stressed, without being unhealthy. So I need to figure out how to enjoy owning a business and how to be able to navigate through the owner dependency trap. Now, what that opened to me was the opportunity to work with lots of other leaders and business owners. So over the last 4 years now, I've been working with a variety of business owners, and as well as working on myself and learning about how to navigate the owner dependency trap, I've been able to work with other owners, and that's given me some really good, unique insights into how to navigate through it. Okay, so I just want to share with you a couple of top level tips that are going to help you get out of the owner dependency trap. Now, the first tip, and this is the most important, you cannot skip this phase, right? So if you're feeling trapped in your business right now and you're telling yourself this story that it can't work without you, you have to do this first. And if you skip this, it'll bite you on the ass. You'll just have to come back and do it. Okay. And what you have to do is what we call an aligned strategy. And an aligned strategy is where we look at 3 things and we join them up. The first thing is the owner strategy. What do you want from your business for your business to make you happy? If you don't do that first, nothing else will work. The next thing we do is a bag packet analysis of your financial strategy. So considering what you want as the owner, what does your business need to do financially to give you what you want? And then from there, we look at the business strategy. And again, we're talking napkin strategy, not detailed 10-page plan, but considering what you want from your business and what it needs to do financially, how do we need to position the business and what clients do we need to target and what do we need to price in order for it to create alignment? Now, that might sound a bit woo-woo to you. I'm ex-military, I'm an ex-rugby player, so I like practicality down to earth. I can get a little bit defensive when I hear about like coaching style stuff, but let me explain to you why that's important. Your business is for you. Now, I know you want to help your clients and create work for people, but ultimately for you, it's for you, right? You put your time into it, you put your effort into it, you put your money into it, and you pour a lot into a business. And when you start, you don't really care what it gives you back because you're just excited, right? But as time goes on, because business is a long game for most of us, as time goes on, you start to crave a return for your investment. Okay. And that's very normal and very right. Why would you have a business if it isn't going to work for you? And what happens for most business owners is they start messy, they get some traction, they build a thing that's dependent on them, they get a bit stuck, they get a bit tired, and then they think, oh, how do I make this thing work without me? Tell ourselves a story that it can't work without us. Go for this 3 years of just trying to grow it without putting systems in place, feeling like it's an uphill battle, and then we just give up. Or even worse, we end up staying in a business that we're resentful towards because it's not giving us what we deserve. The way that we vaccinate against that and we get our motivation levels high and we get refocused is with the aligned strategy. So when you start with your owner strategy, which is what do you want from your business? And we do this across the 4 F's: fun, freedom, fulfillment, and finances. When you get clear on what you want from your business across those 4 categories, and the way that I do it is you put the 4 categories here, and then across the top you go 1 year, 3 years, and then here we go 5 to 10. The reason I say 5 to 10 is maybe you're thinking about selling or exiting in 5 years, so 10's irrelevant. Once we get clear on those things, something really important happens, right? you start to feel motivated for your business again. Because what happens with most owners, and I've been here, is we just tell ourselves, oh, we just need to grow. We just need to make more money. We just need to pay the VAT bill. We just need to have more profit so I can actually take home a decent wage. And the problem with that is it just becomes growth for the sake of growth. And then we can't be asked to do it, or we feel flat by it because it's just like more work for the sake of more work. And it doesn't motivate owners. It makes you feel like you're in a job. What does work is when you get clear on what you want, and we drill down, and you've got to drill down into this. But when you get clear on what you want, like the lifestyle you want, the fun you want to have, the work you do want to do, the work you don't want to do, the difference you want to create with your business, the money you want to take from your business. Once you get clear on that, all of a sudden, instead of just saying, oh, I need to make more money or I need to be more profitable, you're like, oh, if I hit these targets, I can have this lifestyle. And that gets you motivated again. If you don't do that, you end up with this plan about making more money, and you're going to make numbers up because they sound impressive. And then you're not going to be motivated to pursue that strategy. And then you're going to have real issues trying to actually make the change happen. And if you work with someone like me, I'm going to have issues trying to get you motivated to do that stuff. Whereas if we start with what you want from your business and you get really clear on that and really excited by it and you really paint a picture of it, you're going to have no issues doing the things you need to do to make your business change. But the reality is it's hard to change, right? So without that motivation, you'll probably just find yourself getting pulled back into the business being like it is now. And then you get to the end of another year and you're like, nothing's really changed. And you're just stuck in this place of being negative. And that's not good for you. And it's not good for the business. It's not good for the team. It's not good for your clients. So we get clear on what you want. Then we go top level financials. Okay, so if you want to take this much money home after tax, or if you want to not do these jobs, but you do want to do these jobs, who do we need to employ to do that stuff? Or you want to be able to take X amount of time off a year, etc. Or fulfillment, you want to be known as the person that changed this in the industry. What team do we need in place? What financials do we need in place? And how much money do we need to charge? What do we need to take, etc., etc. And we just do top level, but we look at what money do you need to take in the business? Because we'll know, because you've been going for a few years, what the engine is of the business now. That's why you can't really do this at the start, because when you start your business, you don't really know how much it's going to cost to deliver your service and what the practicalities are. You need to go and just get your hands dirty for a few years. And then once you've got that and you've done that, we can then look at your model and go, what's working, what's not working, how much does that cost? And what would normally happen, by the way, is you would normally end up looking at your finances and going, this model doesn't work to give me the lifestyle I want, because you've made your business reliant on you. Okay. And we're like, okay, that's fine. So what does it need to do? And normally what you'll realize is we need to drive up our average value per client. If you're a service-based business, probably the same for products, right? And you're going to then tell yourself people won't pay that, because you've started your strategy when you started. And I know this was, what's the market average? That's normally the kind of financial strategy we have when we start our businesses, but it's a load of nonsense. And you're competing with big businesses that set those standards, those prices, who have got economics of scale. So it's kind of like a small restaurant trying to compete with McDonald's and pricing. They've got the economics of scale. So you're going to realize that your pricing's probably off. Okay. And that for you to have the lifestyle you want, and for you to deliver the service you want, and to pay your staff what they need, you need to make more money. You need to charge a higher ticket price. Now, this is just a generalization. But then what you'll probably realize is that if you look into your business and at your clients, you've probably got 10 to 30% at the top that quite happily pay the extra money, are lovely to work with, and want the best level of service. So often what we'll realize is that we need to be more profitable. We need to make more money. And the way that we do that is by charging a higher ticket price, maybe working with fewer clients and delivering a better service. Go through this process, look at your finances and be like, oh, it doesn't work, and then feel stuck. But it will work. You've just got to have the confidence to step back and think about how you can rewire the economics of the business. That's what we do then. We get clear on what the economics of the business need to be, what's the kind of average client value, how many clients do we need to work with, and then you move into your owner strategy. By the way, just a reminder, these are top level. This isn't in-depth stuff. Somebody else can do that. They can help us dig into it deep, but what we just want to do is top level. Then we go into the business strategy, which is considering the financial strategy and the owner strategy. How do we position the business? And this is really important as well, because it'll help you get your confidence and your vision set with you and with your team. But often what this will look like is, this is our top 1 to 3 clients profiles that we want to go after. This is the pricing that we're going to charge. This is the change that we're going to make in their lives. This is why it's a no-brainer for them to spend that money with us, so that you're as convinced on the pitch and the offering as your team are, as your customers are, and then everything starts to fall into place. But again, if we just said you need to charge more for your business to be healthier, but you didn't do all this stuff, you won't put the effort in, because you're going to meet resistance, right? So you're going to have to rethink your positioning, your marketing. You're going to have to get your team aligned. So it is effort. But if you don't get clear on what you want, you won't make that effort. But if you also don't get clear on what you want, you're going to stay stuck in the business that you've got now, which might be comfortable now, but where's it leading to? That's the question you've got to ask yourself as an owner. If it's all reliant on you and you're not willing to change anything because it's uncomfortable, where are you going to end up? If you change nothing, where are you going to be in 3 years, 5 years, 1 year? And most of the time, the answer is you're going to be trying to get out of your business because you're fed up, tired, and burnt out. and you're going to try and sell it for a broker, they're going to happily take your money to broker it for you, and nobody's going to buy it because it's reliant on you. Nobody wants to own a dependent business. And then that means that you lose your business, your customers lose the service that you provide, and your clients lose their jobs. Okay, so the best thing you can do for everybody is make your business work for you. Okay, so that's the first step, the aligned strategy. Now, after that, what we do is we then, moving on from the aligned strategy, is we involve the team in making the business better. So we communicate the vision and we put a cadence in of every 2 days, full team together. If you're a team of 10 or less, if you're a team of 10 or more, you do leadership team every 2 days. And then once every quarter, you spend one full day with your team planning, looking at the vision, going, how can we achieve that? And you use a process called OKRs, Objectives, Key Results. I'll share that with you in a separate video after this. But that systemizes growth in your business. And we put things like scorecards in place as well, so that we systemize day-to-day operations and growth in the business with those things there. And then the final system that we want to start moving towards is actually you stepping away so that issues are created in the business so that the team can build the systems and processes to make it happen, and an accountability system. It takes about 1 to 2 years to get your business systemized and working without you, but it's actually not that complicated. But it has to start with the aligned strategy. Okay, I've thrown a lot of information at you there. So my final thing is I just want to share with you how things change when you implement this, when you stop the business being reliant on you, get clear on what you want, and you start to think about creating a systemized team-led business. Now, the reason I want to share this with you is because you and I are human beings, right? And we have a human being mind. And humans have been around, Homo sapiens, for about 300,000 years. That's what we guess. And for 95% of that time, we were hunter-gatherers, right? We lived out in the wild, trying to survive every day. Now, that means that our minds have evolved some certain traits to try and contribute to our survival. And one of the traits that the human mind has evolved is avoiding change unless it's absolutely necessary. And that's because when we were hunter-gatherers and there's lots of potential threats out there, it made sense for our minds to try and put us off doing things that were new unless it was absolutely necessary for survival. And the way that it's led to do that is to catastrophize. And this is useful to an extent because think about it. If I'm stood by a road and I didn't have this, then I might just walk in front of cars. But I know my mind tells me that if I walk in front of cars, I'm probably going to get hit and die. So your mind is trying to talk you out of doing new things by convincing you of the worst case scenario to try and keep you in the safe zone, or what it perceives as the safe zone, unless it's absolutely necessary to change. So what will happen for you as an owner and for all of us as owners is you get your business to a certain point where it's surviving, right? Because when you start it, it's not. And then you get to this point where it's surviving, there's money coming in, you're probably taking some home, you're paying teams and all of that stuff, right? Your business might be surviving, but it's not what it needs to be. It's taking up too much of your time. It's pulling you into jobs that you don't enjoy. And it's probably not growing and scaling to what it should be because it's so reliant on you and it hasn't got systems in place. So that's going to lead to a bad place. But, and this is why people get stuck in bad habits, change is scary, right? And your brain's going to try and talk you out of change. So even though everything I'm saying to you in this video, you probably know makes sense, you've still got this part of your mind that's illogical and irrational, that's doing everything it can to convince you to not make these changes by telling you that if you do, it's all going to go wrong. The business is going to fall apart if you start stepping away. The team won't step up. All your clients will leave. All of these horror stories that your brain's creating for you. Now, I want you to understand that I'm not a mind reader. I don't know you, but I know you're getting those voices because you're a human, right? So we have to be aware of those thoughts, but we have to make sure that they don't control us on autopilot, because if they control us on autopilot, we stay stuck in our businesses as they are. We don't change them. We justify the behaviors that we're engaging in and not spending time with our families and not going on holiday and not looking after ourselves and not getting out of the business because we're convinced of this story that it'll all fall apart. Now, we've got to be aware of that, put it into a box, put it over to the side, and then we've got to get focused on what do we actually want from our businesses. And what I'd like to share with you is what will actually happen if you do this well. And what will happen if you start to step away from your business is, yes, there will be some short-term issues as you start to step away, because it's going to highlight the things that are reliant on you, which is a lot. It's going to highlight the things that aren't systemized and processed. It's going to highlight that quality drops in certain areas unless you're there keeping on top of people. Short-term pain, right? But then what we do is, instead of you stepping back in, we say, how can we make that work consistently without me? Okay, we put the systems and processes in place. Now, as we start to do this, here's some magical things that happen. Now, the first one is you get your freedom back from the jobs that you dislike, from the tasks that are draining you, and from the volume of work, which does what? Gets you more motivated, gives you more time to be healthy, which means that you can then focus on the stuff that you're good at, you're motivated again, you're driven again, which means that you have a positive impact on the culture of the business, and you can go and focus on the stuff that you're really good at, such as partnerships, leadership, innovation, strategy. So that means that we've essentially just added a growth driver back to the business, which is you being motivated, not sucked into daily operations. That's probably worth it just on its own, right? The second one is you empower your team. Actually, you probably think you're doing your team a favor by staying there, looking after them, holding their hands. But actually what you're doing at the start, that's okay. But when it goes on for too long, what you're doing is subconsciously telling them that you don't trust them. Okay. And making them feel like cogs in the system as opposed to empowerers of the business, right? So when you step away, they have a confidence boost because they feel like they're being given the level of trust. And what that will actually lead to is them being more motivated and being more innovative with the business because you're giving them freedom and autonomy. Okay. It's one of the key things to drive employee engagement. And one of the reasons employee stress and motivation, stress is high and motivation is low in small and medium businesses because the owners won't get out of the way and just let the team get on with it. So that's another thing that's going to happen. Your team are going to be more motivated. As you develop these systems, your team are going to be able to deliver the service more efficiently. Okay, which means that your customers get a more consistent experience, and it means your team can deliver more efficiently so that they have more time to focus on themselves or growing the business, and they're not just constantly stuck in firefighting mode. And then obviously the final one that leads to is customers get a better experience. So they're happier. You can serve more of those customers because you've got systems, and you can set the business up to scale because you've got proven processes in place. So it has a massive impact on the bottom line as well. So it's good for you. It's good for the business. It's good for your team. It's good for your clients. It's good for your bank account. So why wouldn't you do it? And the final question that I would like you to kind of place in your mind to help you make the right decision and start stepping back is, what's going to happen in your business in 1 to 5 years if it carries on exactly as it is, being dependent on you? What's the outcome of that? And for most of us, we will come to the conclusion that we'll be fed up, we'll be demotivated, the business will be the same or worse, we'll keep losing staff, and the business will just cease to be, or certainly won't be very good. And I think there's two outcomes of us not being happy in our businesses. The one is we just close them because we're fed up. And then the second one, which is probably worse, is we stay in them unhappy for years and the businesses don't grow and we just waste our lives stuck in a business that we're not enjoying. But I promise you, if you start systemizing and processing and you force yourself to step back and you don't let yourself fix the problems, but you say, how can we systematically fix this problem without it being reliant on me? You'll create a systemized, scalable business that can work without you and that's more enjoyable for everybody involved. Your business can absolutely work without you. I don't care what industry you're in. It will create a win-win if you do that. And if you're feeling stuck, you've just got to give yourself permission to step back and put the systems and processes in place. That starts with you getting clear on your aligned strategy. What do you want from your business? Be sensibly selfish. Think about what your business needs to do to make you happy. That will give you the motivation and drive to make the changes you need to make to have a business that you absolutely love and enjoy. I mentioned some systems that you need to put in place. So what I'm going to do is share a separate video up here somewhere or up here somewhere showing you what systems to put in place to get your team to run the business for you. So I think it's about 20 minutes. So it's easy to follow. And if you're also not convinced, let me share with you another video of a client of ours who's just taken a 90-day holiday, who just a year ago thought he couldn't go away for a few weeks, never mind 90 days. I hope you found this video useful. If you know any owners that are feeling stuck or trapped in their businesses and they're telling themselves that there's no way out, please do share this video with them and make sure that you connect with me below, either on the free Facebook group or via LinkedIn on the links in this video description. Thanks for tuning in.